It's not about doing more, it's about doing what matters. One small habit, done daily, can rewrite your entire story. Success isn't built in chaos, it's born in quiet reflection. If you give your day 5 honest minutes, it'll give you a new life. Discipline is the real game changer. It's not flashy, it doesn't show off, and it rarely gets the applause. But it's the quiet force behind every lasting success story. Most people think success comes from raw talent, intense motivation, or a burst of inspiration. But the truth is, talent fades when tested, motivation wavers under pressure, and inspiration comes and goes like the weather. What truly carries you through is discipline, the ability to show up to do the work, especially when you don't feel like it. Discipline isn't about being perfect, it's about being consistent. It's the daily decision to honor your future self more than your current comfort. Every day you choose discipline over distraction. You vote for the life you want instead of the life you're stuck in. We've all had those moments where we felt unstoppable, full of energy, ready to take on the world. But discipline asks, what do you do when that energy is gone? What do you do when no one's watching? When the lights are off, when you're tired, frustrated, or tempted to quit? That's where the winners are separated from the wishers. Discipline steps in when motivation steps out. It keeps you grounded. It reminds you of your why when everything else feels like noise. Without discipline, your dreams are just daydreams. With it, they become action plans, milestones, and finally, reality. Discipline is the bridge between intention and execution. A goal without discipline is just a fantasy. You can write it down, shout it out, post it on your wall, but unless you're willing to back it up with consistent action, it stays out of reach. That's what discipline does. It turns hopes into habits. It takes your vision and gives it legs. And yes, it's uncomfortable. Yes, it demands sacrifice. But nothing of value comes without a price. You have to give up temporary ease for permanent growth. You have to say no to things that feel good now so you can say yes to what's great later. The most successful people in any field didn't get there by accident. They didn't just wake up one day at the top. They earned it through repeated effort, through showing up every single day even when they didn't want to. They built systems, stuck to routines, and held themselves to a higher standard. It wasn't luck, it was discipline. While others were busy making excuses, they were busy making progress. They understood something most people ignore. Discipline is freedom. Freedom from chaos, freedom from regret, freedom from the pain of not living up to your potential. When you live with discipline, you live with direction. You know where you're going, and you're willing to take the steps required to get there. Discipline compounds. One good decision today leads to another tomorrow. One workout turns into a healthy habit. One page read becomes a full book. One sales call becomes a pipeline. It's not about doing everything all at once. It's about doing the right thing repeatedly. Over time, discipline builds momentum, and momentum builds transformation. People around you will notice the change, but they'll call it luck or talent. They won't see the early mornings, the late nights, the sacrifices, or the self-control it took to stay the course. But you'll know. And that's enough. It's not the smartest, the strongest, or the most gifted who win. It's the most disciplined. Because discipline beats talent when talent doesn't show up. Discipline beats motivation when life gets hard. And discipline beats every excuse, every obstacle, every delay. So if you want to build a life that lasts, start with discipline. Make it your foundation. Protect it, nurture it, and practice it daily. Because the life you want isn't found in a big moment. It's hidden in the small, disciplined decisions you make every single day. Success rarely comes from a sudden, grand gesture. It doesn't arrive in a single breakthrough moment, a massive shift, or one dramatic transformation. That's a myth too many people believe, that you need to make a huge leap, completely overhaul your life overnight, or experience some lightning bolt of change to become successful. The truth is far simpler and far more powerful. It's the small daily habits, the ones that feel boring, even pointless at times, that quietly build the foundation of greatness. Simple habits outperform dramatic moves, not because they look impressive, but because they are sustainable, repeatable, and capable of compounding into extraordinary results over time. When you zoom out and look at people who have mastered their craft, elevated their mindset, or built something meaningful, you'll notice a pattern. It wasn't one massive act that changed their life. It was a series of simple choices repeated consistently. Waking up early, writing for 10 minutes a day, reading a few pages of a good book, saving a small amount of money, exercising even when they didn't feel like it. None of these things are flashy. They don't grab attention. But over weeks, months, and years, they create a momentum that becomes impossible to ignore. Simple doesn't mean easy. In fact, the simplicity of habits can make them feel deceptive. Because they don't give immediate results, many people underestimate them or give up too soon. They chase the next big thing, the 30-day challenge, the drastic diet, the get-rich-quick scheme. But those dramatic moves often burn out just as fast as they begin. They may offer a short-term spike, but they don't build long-term stability. What endures is what you do consistently, not what you do intensely for a brief moment. Consistency always beats intensity. It's better to study for 20 minutes every day than to cram for 10 hours once a month. It's better to walk every morning than to sprint for an hour once a week and burn out. Why? Because simple habits are anchored in rhythm. They become part of who you are. They rewire your identity. You stop having to think about it. It just becomes normal. And when something becomes normal, it becomes powerful. There's another reason simple habits matter so much. They're doable. They remove the barrier of perfection and replace it with progress. You don't need to be motivated every single day to do a small thing. You just need enough self-respect to show up, even when it's inconvenient. And that's where the magic happens. A journal entry today leads to clarity tomorrow. A 5-minute meditation becomes mental strength. Saying no to one temptation builds self-control. It adds up. Over time, you're not just building habits. You're building a mindset, a structure, a character. Think of a tree. It doesn't grow overnight from a dramatic explosion of energy. It grows inch by inch quietly, through consistent nourishment. The same goes for your life. Simple habits, when rooted deep, grow strong, steady, and resilient. You might not notice the progress daily, but one day, people will look at you and wonder how you became so disciplined, so focused, so elevated. And you'll know, it was never one big moment. It was all the little ones. If you wait for the perfect time to make a dramatic move, you may be waiting forever. But if you choose to build small habits today, you're investing in something that can't be taken from you. You're proving to yourself that you can keep promises. You're creating momentum that will carry you even on hard days. You're becoming the kind of person success sticks to. Not because you chased it, but because you built the foundation for it to land on. So if you want to change your life, don't aim for the spotlight, master the routine. Don't chase intensity, build consistency. And don't underestimate what looks simple. Because over time, simple habits will do what dramatic moves can't. They'll change everything. In the fast pace of everyday life, it's easy to get caught in a cycle of doing without thinking. We move from task to task, from one obligation to another, often on autopilot. But without awareness, even the most productive day can leave us feeling empty. That's why intentional daily reflection is such a powerful tool. Taking just 5 minutes at the end of each day to reflect can change the entire trajectory of your life. It gives you clarity, not just about what you did, but about why you did it, what mattered, and what you want to do differently tomorrow. Clarity isn't something that suddenly arrives. It's something you build, deliberately, quietly, consistently. And reflection is the tool that helps you build it. When you sit down with yourself at the end of the day, you're not just reviewing your actions, you're reclaiming your mind. You're stepping out of the noise and into intention. You're asking, did I live aligned with my values today? Did I respond with patience? Did I prioritize what really matters or just react to what was urgent? These questions don't need paragraphs of answers. Sometimes a few honest words are enough, but the act of asking them opens up self-awareness that most people never experience. Reflection gives you the opportunity to correct your course. Life doesn't always go according to plan. You'll get distracted, you'll make mistakes. You'll get pulled into things that don't serve you. But if you're reflecting daily, those detours won't last long. You'll catch them. You'll notice, I spent 2 hours scrolling on my phone today. Why? Or, I snapped at someone I care about. What triggered that? Reflection gives you feedback, and feedback is a gift. It allows you to grow. Without it, you repeat the same cycles over and over, wondering why nothing changes. But with it, you evolve daily. When you reflect, you start seeing patterns. You begin to recognize what energizes you and what drains you. You become more intentional with your time. You identify what brings peace and what fuels anxiety. Over time, this awareness becomes wisdom, and that wisdom influences your decisions. You're no longer reacting. You're responding with thought and clarity. You're no longer living someone else's definition of success. You're aligning with your own values and priorities. The more you reflect, the more you realize that clarity isn't a distant goal. It's a daily practice. People often chase clarity by consuming more advice, more content, more information. But clarity isn't something you find out there. It's something you uncover by looking within. And you don't need hours of meditation or deep analysis. You just need a few honest minutes. 5 quiet minutes before bed to sit with your thoughts, your choices, your energy. Ask yourself, what did I learn today? What would I do differently? What went well? What drained me? These aren't complex questions, but the answers are profound. They build a stronger version of you, one day at a time. Daily reflection is also a powerful form of self-respect. It tells your mind and soul, you matter enough to check in with. It's an act of grounding, of resetting. of making peace with the day instead of carrying its chaos into the next. And perhaps most importantly, it builds trust with yourself. You become someone who listens to your own inner voice. Someone who notices the gap between who you are and who you're becoming, and takes steps to close it. Don't underestimate what 5 minutes can do. Most people won't take them. They'll stay stuck in the noise, always busy, always distracted. But those who reflect, those who pause, observe and adjust, they move differently. They live with intention. They lead with awareness. They don't need to control everything because they've learned to control their focus. And that's where true power lies. Not in reacting to the world, but in understanding yourself. End your day not with noise, but with stillness. Not with chaos, but with clarity. The path to wisdom isn't paved with information. It's paved with reflection. And every time you reflect, you're not just reviewing the day, you're shaping your future. Sometimes, we think transformation requires a dramatic overhaul of our lives, new routines, big changes, massive action. But real change often begins in small, intentional steps. And one of the most powerful habits you can adopt is the 5-minute formula. A daily check-in using 5 simple questions, each given just 1 minute of your focus. It sounds simple, almost too simple, but that's what makes it sustainable. In 5 quiet, honest minutes, you can shift your mindset, remove distractions, and realign with what truly matters. And if you repeat it consistently, that small window of reflection will begin to shape your entire life. The beauty of this method is that it cuts through the noise. Life is filled with distractions, notifications, demands, expectations. Without a filter, it's easy to drift from your purpose. But 5 minutes of focused reflection becomes that filter. It becomes your daily reset. It brings you back to center. In those 5 minutes, you ask 5 questions. What did I do well today? What drained my energy? What am I avoiding? What do I want to improve tomorrow? What am I grateful for right now? These questions are simple, but their answers are powerful. They force you to look inward. They shine a light on your habits, patterns, and mindset. 1 minute per question isn't about rushing. It's about focus. Giving each question 60 full seconds of thought means you're giving your attention to the present moment, to yourself, without the usual noise. And over time, you'll notice something profound happening. That 5-minute habit starts shaping your awareness. You become more conscious during the day because you know you'll be checking in with yourself later. Your choices begin to shift, not because someone told you to, but because you're holding yourself accountable in a way that feels personal and powerful. This formula also builds momentum. Momentum doesn't come from occasional bursts of effort. It comes from consistent action. And 5 minutes a day is doable for everyone. There's no excuse. You don't need fancy tools or a perfect environment. All you need is honesty and intention. And when you start doing it every day, you realize you've created a non-negotiable space for growth in your life. It becomes a habit, and that habit becomes a standard. You start showing up better, not because of external pressure, but because you're more in tune with your own values and goals. One of the biggest traps we fall into is believing that change needs to feel hard to be real. But this formula proves otherwise. It's proof that consistent, simple action is more effective than occasional grand gestures. You don't need a 3-hour morning routine. You don't need to read 50 books a year. You need to know yourself. You need to stay honest. You need to adjust in real time. And that's what this habit offers you: clarity, awareness, and control. Even your energy improves. Why? Because you stop wasting it. You stop pouring energy into things that don't serve you. You start recognizing what drains you, what inspires you, and what needs to change. That's not something most people pay attention to, but you will. Because your 5-minute check-in becomes a tool of self-mastery. It keeps your vision clear. It keeps your actions aligned. It keeps your emotions regulated. And over time, those 5 minutes give you something most people never find: inner peace. This isn't just about productivity or performance. It's about living with intention. Most people live on autopilot, but you won't. Because every night you'll stop, you'll breathe, you'll ask, you'll listen. And slowly, you'll become the kind of person who is no longer reactive, no longer lost in distraction, no longer pulled in every direction. You'll know what matters. You'll know what's working. You'll know where to go next. 5 minutes, 5 questions. One powerful habit. It's not flashy, it's not complicated, but it is transformative. Try it. Stick with it. Let it shape you. The world doesn't need more noise. It needs more clarity. And that begins with you, 5 minutes at a time. Most people stay stuck not because they lack intelligence or opportunity, but because they avoid the one thing that could truly set them free: honest reflection. Reflection isn't hard because it requires time or effort. It's hard because it forces you to look at things you'd rather ignore. It's uncomfortable. It holds up a mirror and dares you to see what's really there. Not the version you show the world, but the version you try to hide from yourself. And that's exactly why most people avoid it. They stay busy. They distract themselves, they chase noise. Because stillness exposes truth, and truth can be painful. It takes real courage to pause. It takes strength to stop running from yourself. When you reflect, you're not just thinking, you're confronting. You're facing your fears, your patterns, your inconsistencies. You begin to see how your own choices created your current reality. That's a hard pill to swallow. It's easier to blame other people, circumstances, or timing. It's easier to say, it's not my fault. But deep down, you know your habits. You know what you've tolerated. You know what you've postponed. Reflection brings it all to light. And that's why growth feels so difficult. Not because growth itself is unreachable, but because it begins with self-awareness. And self-awareness is a brutal teacher. It doesn't flatter your ego. It doesn't care about your excuses. It simply shows you the truth, unfiltered. But here's the paradox. That's exactly what sets you free. When you finally see things as they are, you gain the power to change them. You can't fix what you won't face. You can't rise if you're not willing to admit where you've fallen. That's why reflection is the beginning of transformation. People stay stuck because they don't want to feel discomfort. But discomfort is the birthplace of change. When you sit with your own truth, even when it hurts, you gain clarity. You begin to understand why you're in the position you're in. You connect the dots between your patterns and your pain. And suddenly, life becomes less random. You start to realize that your habits are your destiny. That your thoughts shape your actions, and your actions shape your life. It's all connected. And it's all within your control. But none of that awareness happens without reflection. If you don't pause, you'll keep repeating the same cycles, hoping for a different outcome. You'll stay stuck, not because you have to, but because you never stop to ask why. Reflection breaks that cycle. It makes you conscious. And once you're conscious, you become powerful. And you stop reacting to life, and you start responding with intention. You stop drifting, and you start steering. The truth is, most people aren't lazy. They're afraid. Afraid of what they'll find if they slow down. Afraid that if they really look, they'll have to change. And change is scary because it means leaving behind comfort, even when that comfort is quietly destroying you. But you have to ask yourself, what's the cost of staying stuck? What are you missing out on by avoiding the mirror? How long are you willing to live beneath your potential just to avoid discomfort? The people who grow, evolve, and rise are not the ones with perfect plans or ideal conditions. They are the ones who are brave enough to pause. Brave enough to reflect, brave enough to face the truth, even when it shakes them, because they understand something vital. Truth is not the enemy, it's the doorway. And once you walk through it, you'll never settle for stagnation again. So stop running, stop numbing, stop pretending that you're fine when you're not. Sit with yourself, ask the hard questions, feel the discomfort, let it teach you, let it transform you. Because the moment you stop avoiding truth is the moment your life begins to shift. And that moment can start right now. Reflection by itself is powerful. Just pausing long enough to evaluate your day, your actions, and your mindset gives you insight that most people never access. But when you stack reflection with other intentional growth habits, like gratitude, planning, preparation, and goal alignment, that's when your entire life starts to elevate. Reflection alone is the seed, but combining it with other powerful practices is how you build momentum that compounds day after day, week after week, year after year. This is how you stop reacting to life and start mastering it. Most people think that transformation comes from major shifts or sudden breakthroughs. But real change is subtle, it's daily, it's built in the quiet moments that no one sees. When you reflect with purpose, you start to see clearly what's working, what's not, where you're headed, and why. But if you leave it there, it's just awareness. Combine that awareness with action, and now you're becoming unstoppable. Start with gratitude. Before you analyze what went wrong or what needs fixing, ground yourself in what's going right. Gratitude shifts your mind into a state of abundance. It makes you recognize the progress you've made, the opportunities you've been given, and the strength you already possess. When you reflect with gratitude, you don't just look at your shortcomings. You appreciate your growth. You celebrate small wins, which fuels your desire to keep going. Now bring in intention. Ask yourself, what do I want to feel, build, or embody tomorrow? What type of person do I need to become to align with the vision I hold? Reflection shows you the truth of where you are. But intention directs where you're going. Most people live reactively. They wake up and let the day happen to them. But when you stack reflection with daily intention, you take back control. You move into your day with purpose. You choose how to think, how to speak, how to respond, instead of letting your environment dictate it for you. Preparation is the next multiplier. It's one thing to reflect and set an intention. It's another to prepare yourself mentally, emotionally, and practically for the day ahead. Preparation could be as simple as reviewing your goals, setting your top 3 priorities, or planning how to respond to known challenges. When you prepare in alignment with your reflection, your actions become deliberate, you stop wasting energy, you stop repeating the same mistakes, you optimize your life from the inside out. Now imagine doing this every day. 5 minutes of reflection, a minute of gratitude, a minute of intention, a few minutes of preparation. That's a system that aligns your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions with your highest goals. It becomes automatic over time. And with consistency, it rewires your identity. You stop identifying with chaos and distraction. You start identifying with growth, discipline, and self-mastery. Stacking reflection with these habits builds clarity. You start to see how your daily patterns shape your long-term outcomes. You notice where you're losing time, leaking energy, or falling into self-sabotage. But you also see your strengths. The moments you stayed committed, showed restraint, kept going when it was hard. That feedback is priceless. It gives you the fuel to adjust, realign, and execute with sharper focus. Most people want big results without building strong systems. But the people who grow consistently understand this truth. Success isn't just about intensity. It's about structure, it's about alignment, and it's about stacking small, meaningful habits that multiply your effectiveness over time. Reflection opens the door, gratitude strengthens your mindset, intention points your focus, preparation fuels your action. Together, they form a loop, a daily ritual that compounds into massive transformation. Don't just reflect, stack it, layer it with purpose. Turn it into a rhythm. Build the habit of ending each day with clarity and starting each day with conviction. Because when you stack reflection with growth, you don't just improve, you evolve. The truth is, lasting success isn't about one big move. It's about what you do every day. And when you combine intentional reflection with the right habits, gratitude, focus, preparation, and action, you create a system that's almost impossible to fail. You stop living on autopilot and start showing up with purpose. You begin to align your days with your dreams. Most people will never pause long enough to reflect. They'll keep moving, keep reacting, and stay stuck in the same cycles. But not you. Because now you understand, 5 minutes of clarity is more powerful than 5 hours of hustle. Stack that clarity with growth, and you won't just make progress. You'll transform your life. One quiet evening at a time, one honest answer at a time, one powerful choice at a time. Keep showing up, keep stacking. The results will speak for themselves.